Hello and welcome to FirstWave Cloud Technologies Product Roadmap webinar. My name's Neil Pollock and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of FirstWave. Today, we're using the Zoom collaboration tool for this webinar, and while many of you are probably very familiar with Zoom, for the benefit of those who are not, I'm going to take a few minutes to explain how this is going to work. As attendees to this webinar, you can log a question at any time during the presentation or during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation using the Q&A function. This will enable us to address all questions in the sequence that they arrive during the Q&A session at the end. Now, to find this Q&A function, it's on the bottom of the Zoom screen, and you may have to move your cursor down to the bottom of the screen to reveal the Q&A icon. The presentation should now be visible on your Zoom screen, but in case it's not, it has also been lodged on the ASX platform. Okay, let's go. Slide 3 is our standard disclaimer. Today, while we're not talking about numbers, we are looking into the future. We talk about future plans and intentions. We disclose sensitive information about our product strategy, our product roadmap, and the platform itself, to give you an idea of where the business is heading technologically. This is based on what we are planning today. Next slide, please. Joining me and presenting today's webinar are FirstWave's technology experts. Kevin Block, our advisor to FirstWave Technology through our Technology and Markets Committee. Roger Cavosso, our Director of Product Strategy. And Simon Ryan, the father of our cloud content security platform and our Chief Technology Officer. Today, we're also going to give you a view of FirstWave, which is somewhat different to what you see in our regular quarterly updates. We're going to show you FirstWave from the perspective of our partners and their customers, and show you how your investment is employed to deliver products to meet customer and market demand. Kevin will start by giving us an update on cybersecurity market dynamics, what our partners and their end customers are experiencing today and what's happening in the market, and how, importantly, FirstWave fits into this rapidly evolving and growing market. He'll hand the microphone to Roger, who will walk us through the company's product roadmap. Now, this section is quite technical, but it contains a lot of information, and it is the key to how your investment is being invested to meet current and projected future demands and deliver our projected revenue growth. Roger will then hand the floor to our CTO, Simon, who'll show you how we turn a partner order into revenue. We'll then open the floor up to questions, but now I'd like to invite Kevin to update us on the market dynamics. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, Neil, and good morning to you all. Look, my role, very briefly, is to, as an external advisor, to give you some perspective that I see from the outside market and give you context and set up for Roger and Simon to follow. So we and you have all heard plenty of statistics on the cybersecurity market. I'm not going to go through that. I want to just really bring it home by asking you this question, which we ask a lot of people. What's the percentage of organizations that with traffic going to sites with malware? If you can click the slide. What would that percentage be? If we click it again, that will be 100%. Basically, everyone is having malware attacks. In fact, they say there's two types of organizations: those that know that they've been attacked and those that don't know that they've been attacked. So the question then is, what's going to change? Actually, the question should be, what's not going to change? Because what we do know is the following. Click. There are three key drivers changing the technology landscape. There's the cloud, which has been with us for over a decade, mobile, and with the onset of 5G, and now the real hockey stick kick in the Internet of Things. So we're not just talking about people anymore. We're talking about things being at the mercy of cyber attack. And what we've seen in 2020 with COVID is a rapid acceleration of digitization, which has been going on for a decade or more, but obviously it's had a real injection of steroids in the last 9 months. So we see that increasing. As a result of that, we see business risk increasing, complexity increasing, the usage of those three trends increasing, and at the same time, increasing skill shortage. That is not going to change anytime soon. Click. This slide comes from your industry. Momentum, which is a venture capital organization based in San Francisco, put out this slide every year. This is May 2020. And these are logos operating in the cybersecurity market, sub-segmented. And as you can see, this is highly complex. It's complex for end users to choose which is the best product to stop that particular attack. It's incredibly complex for service providers to work out which services and which products they should be using to serve their customers. And that complexity ain't going away. In fact, Momentum will tell you that there are something like 9 new startups a month. If you look at some of Cisco's customers, where I was for 21 years, that we had customers there with over 50 vendors in one organization. On average, at the top end of town, more than 10 vendors. A highly complex situation. So now let's talk about how that, if you can forward the slide, please, sets us up to FirstWave strategy. Forward the slide, please. Every single organization, be they large or small, have got to deal with this problem before, during, and after an attack. Now, if you can forward, click on the slide. The IT infrastructure is comprised of all of these components. There's the network. There's the endpoint that you're using right now. The internet that we're all using. Email, which we've been using for decades. There's the data center, which is not just now private cloud. We've got public cloud. It's highly, highly vulnerable, and that attack vector is only amplified. Click. So big picture, what we're trying to do is we're trying to protect our workforce. That's you and me. Our workplace, wherever we are, and of course that's spread out now, we're all working from home as well. And the workload, which has become increasingly more complex as our applications have moved from not just within the corporate, closed entity, if you will, but into the public cloud, and not just in one public cloud, but into multiple public clouds. Now, if you can forward the slide, you can just imagine this same problem is there at the top end of town, in enterprise, keep going, in government, small business, home office. Every single organization on earth has got this problem. And that is precisely the problem that FirstWave is setting out to solve. Now, let's just take a look at our customer here, which is the service provider. They see a massive opportunity. So they're going to provide email security services using Cisco, firewall services at the top there, from Fortinet, say, endpoint security from Trend, and that's all wonderful, except it starts getting complicated, seriously complicated. Click, please. So the aim now is to think about how can we help those service providers increase revenue and save costs. Click. And we do that in the FirstWave platform by simplifying the operation, automating the operation, and thereby enabling them to scale. They can scale across far more services and far more customers. And all the time addressing not just the enterprise market, but all the way down to home office as well. So now if we pop open the bonnet, if you can click the slide, please, and let's look at inside the FirstWave platform. What does it have that is so extremely valuable to service providers? And I can tell you, coming into FirstWave in the last few months, I haven't seen anything like this that is so, I guess, focused on the security services market. So from one pane of glass, the operator can look at all of the services they're providing, all of their customers. It's multi-tenant. So each individual customer thinks they're getting their own personalized service, which they are, but it is completely firewalled and completely segmented from the next customer and the next customer and their next customer. Benefit to the service provider, economies of scale. They can white label it. So Telstra takes the FirstWave platform and puts their own badge on it. It's open. You saw logos up at the top. There was email from Cisco and firewalls from Palo and Fortinet. And as the market evolves and innovates, and it's going to innovate, that's one of the things that we know is not going to change. The service provider can still maintain the FirstWave platform, but bring on all of these new vendors as it sees fit. enabling far more flexible delivery. And the top right-hand side, one of probably the most important elements for a service provider is their ability to bill. You can have all the services in the world, but if you can't bill the customer, you're going to go backwards real quick, right? So I won't go through all of these capabilities in the FirstWave platform, but suffice to say that I have personally never seen a platform so feature-rich, so focused on security service provision for service providers as I have seen in the FirstWave platform. So with that, if you can click, please. I'd like to hand you over to Roger, who'll give you a little bit more depth on the product as we and FirstWave develops it going forward. Over to you, Rog.
Thanks, Kevin. As we've seen, what is happening in the market is evolving rapidly. Our cloud content security platform, which Simon will demonstrate soon, sits at the center of a critical cybersecurity ecosystem. The market, with our partners' input, shapes our product roadmap. In this section of the presentation, I'm going to take you through what we are doing today to address the current market needs and, critically, what the future product roadmap looks like. As you will see, our product roadmap is more like a product ecosystem comprised of a number of key players to generate revenue on the back of your investment in FirstWave. Next slide, please. I am presenting this product roadmap slide to highlight the company's comprehensive longer-term vision and plan for the portfolio of technology as well as customer and service enablement capabilities on our cloud content security platform. Now, this is a complicated slide, so please don't try to read it. Instead, let me break this down for you into its key component parts. My primary objective and my role is to take market and partner inputs and develop consumable products which generate streams of revenue for our partners and protect their end user customers. I'll now explain how we do this using the product roadmap. As Neil said earlier, respectfully, I suspect for some, this could be stretching the limits of your technology understanding, while for others, this might be familiar. But it is important, so I will take some time. Next slide, please. Our customer is the service provider, the telco service provider, vendor, or systems integrator. And this is the first player in our ecosystem. We sell our cloud content security platform to these customers, which we call partners, and enable them to provide world's best, enterprise-grade, innovative, differentiable, and branded cybersecurity as a service offerings to their customers and their end users. Click, please. Our platform is configured with the core operational functions required by a service provider to deliver cybersecurity as a service to their end customers. As you can see on this slide, the core operational functions include ordering, provisioning, licensing, billing, and so on. In fact, everything necessary to order, turn on, manage, and hence generate revenue from the services integrated into the platform. Very importantly, as the product roadmap unfolds, these functions will digitally integrate with service provider operations to enhance automation, flexibility, and agility for the service provider with scalability, cost, and customer experience benefits. Click, please. These services protect end users, the second player in our product ecosystem, and the consumer of our services. Click, please. These end users consume email, firewall, web, and endpoint security, together with advanced detection and response, or ADR, and these afford essential digital perimeter protection. They're all offered from the platform as a service, which is the basis of the term cybersecurity as a service. In later phases of the product roadmap, end users will consume enhanced versions of these and many other services with richer security functionality that will protect them despite challenging business requirements, technology complexity, and an evolving threat landscape. At this point, let me take a quick pause and summarize. The FirstWave Cloud Content Security Platform, which is the foundation of our product ecosystem, enables our partners, who are our customers, to take enterprise-grade cybersecurity technology and offer it as a service to their end customers, who in turn consume the FirstWave products like email, web, and firewall security, as well as endpoint protection and advanced detection and response. I hope this is making sense. So let's keep going. Next slide, please. When we build product capabilities, we build them in phases. As security technology evolves and improves, so do we. We call these phases horizons. And our product roadmap currently extends across 4 horizons. For simplicity, these horizons roughly map to financial years. So Horizon 0 is what we offer today or in the very near future in this financial year. Horizon 1 is broadly what we are projecting to develop and bring to market next financial year. Horizon 2 is the financial year after, and so on. Next slide, please. The final 2 slides of my part of today's presentation bring this whole product ecosystem together. The first slide looks across the product roadmap broadly, and you will see that in our current commercial model, the end user is actually the one who generates revenue for both the partners and therefore for us. Our partners also get the benefit of a reduced cost to serve. So our partners get additional revenue streams from their end customers. And because of the functionality of the platform, they are able to generate that revenue at a reduced cost. Click, please. The platform software developed by Simon and his development team is the intellectual property that underpins the product roadmap and product ecosystem. This intellectual property contains unique capabilities to integrate and transform world-leading enterprise-grade security vendor technologies into revenue-generating cybersecurity as service offerings for our service provider customers. It is important to understand the unique, innovative combination of our IP with leading vendor IP creates and delivers sustainable, differentiable value to our service provider customer and their end users. Next slide, please. This slide provides an example of how we will build capability progressively through the product roadmap to offer value to our service provider partners. In this example, you can see, highlighted in green, a subset of key capabilities on the product roadmap delivered across multiple horizons. For Telco Service Provider Secure Access Service Edge, or SASE. SASE, a term coined by Gartner, is an emerging technology that will transform the digital enterprise, network, and cloud security services market over the coming years. These product roadmap capabilities chart a course for FirstWave to fully exploit the SASE market opportunity. So our telco customers will use our platform to deliver innovative and new telco SASE services on their future edge and 5G infrastructure to their enterprise and government customers. So what does this all mean? Firstly, that this product roadmap is built upon our intense focus, insights, and deep understanding of the market and our service provider customer requirements. Secondly, that the product roadmap will deliver capabilities that will meet these requirements and at least satisfy or indeed exceed the expectations of our customers. And thirdly, that the investment in the product roadmap will position the company to capture a significant share of the growing market partner and revenue opportunities. On that note, I'd now like to turn the presentation over to Simon, our Chief Technology Officer, to demonstrate the value of our platform.
Thanks, Roger. Now I'd like to give you a look at what it's like to use the FirstWave platform with our current Horizon Zero offering. There are two key users of this platform, as mentioned. Firstly, the service provider, or MSSP, who uses the platform to create new customers and services. And secondly, the service provider's customers, the end users who consume those services. To show you the platform, I'm going to walk you through these actions step by step by firstly putting on the hat of a service provider and starting with the ordering process, following on with the provisioning of a new customer and the activation of 2 new security services. At this point, I'll change hats to that of the end user as they log into the portal and view and configure their service. And finally, I'm going to give you a look at the sort of detailed information the platform produces that enables our partners to build their customers and generate the revenue that flows back to us. Before I start, let me say there's a lot happening here, both in the portal and behind the scenes. What I'm about to show you is only a subset of the capabilities of the portal. And I should also warn you that our normal demos go for more than 50 minutes. So what I'm going to show you here is going to be mostly in high speed. So firstly, putting on my service provider's hat, I'm now going to log in as a service provider operator. I'll punch in my details and I'm presented with a front page. Now, along the top, I have a menu that gives me access to security controls and enterprise operational functions and order management. On the right, I've got some other functions that give me various functions to enable me to create new customers and services. On the left-hand side, I have the N-tier hierarchy. This is a hierarchy of customers. I can see both single customers that I've created. I can also see resellers below me. And those resellers, if I open them out, may also have their own single customers or customers with many branches and offices. So the key thing here is that this multi-tenanted hierarchy is represented and controlled and virtualized by the platform. This ties back into the roles-based access system and eventually to the billing system. So the next thing I'd like to show you is the ordering process. Once the operator goes into the ordering system, there's 5 steps that they can go through to complete this order. The first 2 steps deal with the creation of the customer and the collection of the information necessary to get that customer into the system. Steps 3, 4, and 5 then take you through the addition of a service. Now I'm going to go through these steps twice, one for email and one for firewall. So let me start that process now. I'm just going to whip through this fairly quickly. I'm adding a new customer, Relativistic Logistics, who happens to be based in Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm going to add in all their details and click Next. I'm now at step 2. I'm adding billing details so that the system has the information necessary for our partners to know how to bill them, a billing frequency and potentially promotional code that adds to that can be used by our partners. Now I'm on the service activation for email. I need to set an activation date for when the service commences, and then I start to add feature packs or bundles. These are very important, and we've made it so that the partners find it very easy to configure them. These actually represent the revenue that the customer will be sending to the partners and through them to us. I'll set the number of seats to 35 and a service duration. Now I'm in the details for the email service, implementation details. I'm going to add a corporate C-level user called Morgan Wells and another one. I'll add in domain details, a username for the administrative user that will be used to control the service once it comes up, and an email address. I'll just pop one of mine in so that I can collect the information that is sent by the platform. Saving and continuing, I get to the final order confirmation step where I can check what's been entered, and if I'm happy with it, I can go down, click the terms and conditions and submit that order. The system then generates an order number for me, and the back end starts to get busy doing various functions to create that service and create that customer. And I can check the status of that by going to the order list and having a look. There's the new customer I've created. There are the feature packs that I added and the provisioning status. Now, I'm going to go ahead now and add an additional security service to this. This time a next-gen firewall. As you can see, I'm back on step 3, service activation again. I'm going to choose the vendor from the list. In this case, I'm going to use a Palo Alto firewall. And because this demo is for a small customer, I'm going to choose a multi-tenanted service because application type, because that has the most economy of scale for this type of customer. The service term, let's choose 12 months, hit next, and enter the implementation details for a firewall. In this case, I'm choosing the infrastructure and the actual Palo virtual machine that this service will be placed onto. There's a few extra details to enter to make sure this customer's traffic is correctly routed through that firewall. Once again, save and continue and accept the terms. Now I get a new order number. And if I close that and have a look at the list, you can see that I've got this customer and I've added a new service. That service is now in progress. Now there's a lot of things happening in the back end while this is happening. And if I wait a few minutes, that will change to completed. Okay, so what have I just done here? What have we seen? Once the customer is created, the platform takes all the information provided by the operator, including the requirements for any services to be created, and passes this to our MANO. The MANO, or Management and Orchestration System, not only manages the virtual resources needed to create these services, but it also manages all of the lifecycle elements needed to create a ready-to-consume service orchestrated on shared or dedicated infrastructure. This includes items such as placement of those services or allocation of virtual resources, the licensing of those services in conjunction and cooperation with our partner vendors, the network routing, the name server configuration, the configuration of cloud-based services in either public cloud or dedicated telco infrastructure, the monitoring and telemetry. What does this mean for the customer? For the customer, it means they want something, they've ordered it, and there's a very short gap between that process and being able to actually consume that service. And typically, I'm talking about minutes here, not to activation, not days. So what you've just seen here is something that I did as a service provider. So now I'm going to take off my service provider hat and I'm going to put on the hat of that service provider's customer. Now I'm the end user. So I want to make it very clear, I'm an SMB user from this point forward. At the platform level, the customer and their new services are now fully activated. So I'm just going to quickly whip through the process here. The user gets an email from the platform. In fact, potentially several emails with lots of details depending on what they've ordered. And that contains login details, which I can enter into the same portal that the service provider used, except when I log in, I'm going to see different things because I'm logging in as a user. I get the opportunity to change my password, and now I'm logged in and I see my service. So what I'll do now is talk through what the user sees when they actually start to use this service. So let me start this video. Along the top, I have access to the service, the particular security services that I ordered, and I can do various functions with those. On the right-hand side, I have various administration configs, such as seeing my account details, seeing control and being able to control the roles for the role-based access in my system. And that's important if I want to create additional users, which I can do here. I can add a new user and I can assign them the role. Some of my users might be operators that don't necessarily need all of the functions that the main IT administrator has, so you can control that. I have access to live activity logs. These are basically audit logs for everything that's done through the portal. So anytime any of my users logs in and does something, I can see an audit log here. This is particularly useful to some of our government customers. I can modify the notifications that the platform sends out to my employees. There's a fully templated configuration system, which I can edit things here. I can also manage the various parts of my own infrastructure so that the platform is aware of what they are. I can add additional security services to those also if I want to from this menu without necessarily contacting my service provider. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like for the security services that we've added. Firstly, email. The default setup that we have on day one is that of a strong security posture. That means all of these settings are set up already such that even if I don't change them, I'm already secure and safe. But I have full visibility of this service, and as emails start to stream through, I can already see activity happening here. I can search using the advanced trace system and find any email that went through my system. I can look at my security policies, and as you can see, there's a number here that have got green ticks against them, which means that our Mano, when this service was set up, automatically set these up in a best practices manner. Now, I may have some changes happening in my organization. One of my executives may have left, for example. I can remove that executive and add a new executive and update the specific policy that looks after the safety of my executives, which is our C-level policy. I also ordered a next-gen firewall for this service. I can go into the policy configuration for that. Now, this is a multi-tenanted firewall, so any changes I make here, for example, to the URL categories, I might want to make a change that better suits my organization. I might also want to add an allow rule for my domain so that the firewall doesn't block me. At the end of the changes that I want to make, I can save it and commit it. And when I commit it, this information once again goes into the back end, and the Mano system in our platform finds the right part of the infrastructure that this multi-tenanted service is overlaid on and specifically changes just the settings related to this service. And as Kevin mentioned earlier, this customer thinks they have a dedicated firewall here effectively. They have their own service and their own visibility of that service through our reporting system. But in reality, in the back end, this service might be carved up amongst many, many other customers. And when we commit a change, the back end makes sure that that change occurs in the right part of the infrastructure and doesn't affect any of the other customers that is using the same shared back end. On the report side, the reports provide a homogeneous view across all security services to provide a consistent presentation across all vendors and service types. Our unique multi-tenanting creates not only consumable security as a service, but it also creates per tenant data feeds, allowing the sort of individualized live data view that I'm showing here. Okay, so what we've just seen then is the way the user experiences the platform and the portal. Let me show you something a little bit different now, something that our partners find very exciting. What we're looking at is something a little bit strange. It's not the matrix. This is a service data feed generated by the platform. Every time someone does something in the platform, every customer that's added or service that is created or modified ends up in the telemetry data stream. Our platform has a huge amount of exportable, partner-friendly data ready to integrate into their systems. What you're seeing might not look very pretty, but for our partners, this is very exciting indeed, as it means that for each order taken and each service item consumed, they can get a live feed from the platform directly into their operational, business support, and billing systems. For our partners, this deep integration is a true enabler of scaling and revenue generation. Now, I've just shown you how the FirstWave platform gets from an order to provisioning, activation, and then consumption and billing. So you might be asking at this point, well, what happens if a service provider or telco doesn't have our platform? Can they still do this? Well, sure, but they have some massive issues to deal with. Firstly, they need to enter the service details into multiple places, and this means logging into multiple screens, infrastructure management consoles, virtual appliance web management screens, firewalls, license managers, vendor portals, network consoles, asset trackers, and then at the end having to figure out which customers are in what part of the infrastructure. And they won't have our multi-tenanting technology, so they need separate virtual machine instances for every customer, which doesn't even make sense for small to medium business. The complexity they're faced with becomes a massive resource bottleneck. The FirstWave platform removes all these pains for the service provider and breaks the barriers to scaling by enabling rapid onboarding and full service lifecycle automation through a single interface. This is what makes it so compelling to our partners. Now, I think I've done enough talking. Thanks for watching. And now let me hand back to our CEO, Neil Pollock.
Thanks, Simon. Really appreciate it. We will open the lines for questions in a few moments. But just let me say a few things to close up. Security penetration and cyber attacks are escalating. The nature of connectivity today, which is delivering access to anyone, anywhere, and everywhere, means there are many more endpoints exposed to attack than ever before. Then, by pushing compute to the edge and moving access to mission-critical company data, applications, and systems away from the protection of a secure enterprise network, the attack surface is being widened as well. So enterprises today across all segments are looking for simplicity and the ability to address cyber attacks before, during, and after they occur. The essential elements of this are simplicity and efficacy. And hopefully what you've seen today, in conjunction with a view of our product roadmap, is that FirstWave's cloud content security platform provides just that, simplicity and effectiveness. What we've given you today is a perspective of the market dynamics which are impacting and influencing our development and product roadmap. You've seen our product roadmap and you've seen how we generate revenue. You've also had a look at the secret sauce, the stuff that gives us our competitive advantage, which enables us and our partners to generate revenue and do it at a reduced cost. I'll now open the lines for questions. Just a reminder, you'll find the Q&A function in the bottom of your Zoom screen, and you may need to move the cursor down to the bottom of the screen to reveal the icon. And you can either use the Q&A icon or the raise hand icon, and or simply type your question in or raise your hand. Thank you. Ruth, are there any questions at this stage?
Yes, we've got a question for Kevin from Chris Gorman. What is the moat from your external perspective that surrounds FirstWave and separates them from competitors? How many organizations can do most of what FirstCloud can do?
Thanks, Chris. There are lots and lots of vendors who can manage their own appliance. Cisco can manage its appliance, Palo its appliance, and they're dedicated to selling, in the case of Palo's appliances, right? There are very, very few vendors in the world that can A, provide this kind of functionality across multi-vendor platforms, and B, provide the controls that I think Simon so elegantly presented in terms of provisioning, billing, management, orchestration. So in my opinion, that's a pretty significant moat, as you put it, Chris, and a pretty significant barrier of entry.
We've got another question. What do you believe makes FirstWave's model defensible?
Is that back to me?
Yes.
What do you
Okay.
What do you believe makes FCT's model defensible?
Okay, well, what I love about it is there's a lot of very smart code in there. A lot of this is not trivial. First of all, you know, the controls that are put up there in terms of single pane of glass, multi-tenanting, these are sort of throwaway lines, but to do multi-tenanting is not easy. And these guys have done it. Provisioning, billing, these are all controls that take quite, not just a lot of understanding of the market and the customer, but quite a lot of sophistication in writing the code. So that's part A. Part B is you then need to have the relationships, and I think Roger and Simon talked about the ecosystem. You need to have the relationship with the vendor. So it's got an extraordinary relationship with vendors such as Cisco, Palo, Fortinet. That again takes quite a bit of time for them to gain trust in FirstWave. Thirdly, you need to build that go-to-market, and that ain't easy because service providers, let's face it, are not easy people to deal with. They have very sophisticated requirements. So I think if you add those three up, that's pretty significant and it hasn't happened overnight. A lot of work has gone into this, and I think it's now ready, to go that, well, it's already out in the global market, but I think the opportunity is enormous and it's only getting bigger.
We've got a question for Roger. How many subscribers can a FirstWave platform support?
Thanks for the question. It's a very large number. So by subscribers, let's consider end users. So as you might have heard, the platform architecture is inherently multi-tenanted and multi-service provider. And the basis of the software that drives that orchestration and provisioning across, the multiple tenants and the multiple service providers is extremely scalable. So whilst I wouldn't say it's limitless, I would say the limits are extremely high, and thousands, if not millions, of subscribers can be delivered across platforms. And of course, there is always the consideration of the resource that you need underneath the platform to support subscribers. But as long as you've got those resources on tap, as long as you've got those resources accessible to the platform, those resources can be brought on and augmented, many times to support whatever subscriber numbers need to be supported. So I hope that's clear.
We have another question. I am a Telstra customer with an SME. What does the path to your product look like for me?
I think I might take that. Thanks, Ruth. Thanks for the question. With Telstra, your path is through TIP email, TIP web, or called the Telstra Internet Protect. You can access that product set directly through them online, through Telstra Online. You can, if you have, as an SME, if you go into the Telstra small business shops in their centres, you can access it through there. If you have an account manager, because of your size, you can access it through your account manager. And there are a number of ways that you can get access to the product. I think what is important about that is that you, as an SME, you might already be using the FirstWave cloud technology platform. And you won't know it because we white label it as we mentioned earlier on in the presentation. We white label the platform through our partners, and therefore it is the backbone and is the engine room of a number of different offerings that are already in the market across our level 1 and level 2 partners. But you might not know it because it's not always labelled as First Cloud. Hope that answers that question.
We've got another question, and this one is, Simon, you talk about FCT Mano, which reaches into many different vendor solutions. How do you keep track of all the vendor updates and make sure vendor makes their own operating systems and doesn't stop the systems from working through FirstWave's platform?
Thanks. That's a very good question. And I think Kevin's touched on that earlier when he spoke about forming very good relationships with your partners. The way we do this is we align our releases with our partners' releases. So that means we're on the beta programs for all of the upcoming virtual machine releases from each partner. And we have an internal accreditation process that runs effectively using what we call a daily CI or continuous integration process. So any issues or changes that the vendors may introduce, we cover those in advance of those versions reaching the market. We also list and make visible which of the vendors' version releases are compatible with our platform. And in fact, I don't know if you noticed on the demo, when I was about to log in, there's a little notice there saying, hey, the Palo version XYZ is now available. That means it's accredited and ready in the platform. So if customers with a dedicated Palo service want to upgrade their service, the Palo, and I didn't mention this, the platform itself helps them manage the upgrade process, which is typically a huge pain when you've got live traffic through a firewall. So we actually orchestrate that upgrade process as well. Thanks, Ruth. Hopefully that answers the question.
Another question for you, Simon. Given this is multi-tenanted, can it be used for governments with multiple agencies?
Absolutely. And in fact, we have that use case here in Australia. So a tenant can be, in fact, an agency. In fact, a lot of what we showed today was really focusing on where the real economies of scale are at the lower end of the market in the SMB. There is nothing stopping this platform being used for much larger organizations. And in fact, we started our life out in the early days with Telstra focusing on the larger enterprise. And over time, we've extended the reach of the platform down to the smaller customers, and we've enhanced our ability to multi-tenant to make that actually make sense and make money. So yes, we certainly do allow for governments and agencies. And in fact, we have some specific policies built for, firstly, for the Australian government, and we're looking to add further policies into the settings for additional governments globally. Thanks, Ruth.
Are there any other questions, please? Neil, I think that concludes the Q&A. There's no further questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Ruth. Thank you to everyone. There's really not very much more left for me to say except to thank you all for your attendance and attention this morning. I hope you've found it informative and of value, and wish you all a great day ahead. Thank you.